In a world where hypnosis marketers have gone crazy, one man is here to deliver a knockout, bone-crushing blow and strip away all of the marketing hype and bull. And now you're in on the best-kept secret in the field. You're listening to the Hypnosis Product Reviews Podcast, leaving only cold hard facts, point blank. No questions asked. Subscribe to the newsletter to get 12 training products absolutely free from the world's top trainers, such as Stephen Brooks, Jonathan Chase, Igor Ledohovsky, Jeffrey Stevens, Daniel Jones, Richard Nongard, John Overdurf, The Head Hackers, Anthony Jacquin, and much more.
Aloha, folks. It's Antonio with hypnosisproductreviews.com. Today I'm interviewing our friend and colleague, Seth Deborah Roth from hypnotherapyforhealth.com. Everybody knows I like the hypnosis, so I usually show up with my my hypnosis shirt, the definition. You'll probably see it in Vegas when I'm there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Great. As long as the technology gods hold together and we don't have a problem, it'll be awesome.
Okay, yes. Let's pray to the technology gods.
And you know, it's funny. A couple minutes ago, we were talking about how she was featured on MythBusters. I remember seeing it a while ago, going, "God, how do I know that person?" And it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh, that's Seth." You want to share with me what some of the questions people asked about that?
Oh, about MythBusters. Well, one of the things. First of all, I wasn't allowed to do any pre-talk at all. No pre-talk, and there were two guys and the girl. There's 5 people totally. 2 of the older guys, but they're not in this particular production. This was the girl and the Italian2 and the Asian fellow. And I wasn't allowed to do any pre-talk at all. So 2 of the guys were really, really, really scared. But anyway, what happened is the lights were so bright on the girl that I took this towel and I put it over her, like a dish towel, and I put it over her eyes to block the camera lights from disturbing her. And everyone was asking me if I have a special technique that I've developed. It was just really, really funny, really funny. And you did 2 days of shooting for maybe 3 minutes of actual what showed up on the screen.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. 2 days of shooting, and I mean, I even did one of the gals. We did a little EFT for chewing a pencil, if I remember correctly, or the eraser on the pencil, and but we really didn't get to see the results. They edited it so much, which is what I was kind of warned about. When you do these things, they edit it, so you never know what's going to show up. And sometimes you need to know what it is they want to, their point of view.
Exactly. The stuff that sorry for interrupting, the stuff that us in the community would love to see on there, it's just never going to show up, because all the stuff that interests us would be boring to the general public.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
It was fun.
Sorry, I have a quick question, which I think I may know the answer. In regards to not being able to show the pre-talk or was it the pre-talk and induction you couldn't show, right?
I wasn't allowed to tell them anything about hypnosis. What it is, what it isn't, it's not sleep, nothing. Absolutely, I couldn't tell them a thing. They wanted the sign. I guess with them being like a myth-busting show, they wanted to hold up the scientific end of it. I guess so. But it was really, it really took away from things, because here they were very scared. They were the Italian fellow, I can't remember his name, but he was really petrified, and he would not go into hypnosis. He would not go into hypnosis. No way, no how. The Asian fellow went deeply into hypnosis. The gal had a problem because of the lights, but you could see her going into the alpha brainwave. But the Asian fellow went nicely into hypnosis. It was nice.
Just dropped off like a rock.
Well, not like a rock, but he went into hypnosis, and he had the electrodes on his head, right? And so you could actually see him going into the alpha brainwave and so forth. which was very nice for me as a medical person to see also, right?
You know, when you had said something about the induction not being able, I thought you meant you weren't able to broadcast it. So I know there's been the myth going around for a while. You know, people talk about how you can't show an induction on television, etc.
You know, I think they cut out the induction. I think they did.
You know what's funny? I
I
think a
don't
lot of sorry for interrupting. I don't know where the myth started, but I know a lot of hypnotists talk about how you can't show an induction on TV, etc., etc., etc. So me, I love researching stuff. So I went through a bunch of code through the FCC. There's nothing about any kind of not being able to show an induction. I think what happened, I think maybe they just maybe they're scared on their end of any kind of accidents with people at home. I mean, I went through the only thing I could find was about not using subliminals.
Right. I think people are just fearful of that someone on the other end will go into hypnosis and I don't know what. But it's it's like when you watch the stage shows, right? They always take out those 5 minutes of induction, which us as hypnotists, that's what we're interested in, right?
That's what we want to see, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to just go to the show and watch it, because I think they cut it out on the videos, too, that you buy at these shows. I'm pretty sure.
And I think one reason might be they might be worried about other people taking their style of induction.
That's always a problem, yeah. I actually, when I took Jerry Valley's, I think it was Jerry Valley's stage hypnosis class, and I was interested in the hypnotist, right? What's her name?
Collins, Pat, right?
Yeah, with the big glasses, right? And so I've watched some of her DVDs, but also the inductions are taken off. So I was lucky to actually get the written induction that she does, which is just, kind of like a progressive relaxation. But it's it's what we're interested in. Let me see the induction. What did they say, right? Yeah.
Now speaking of interest, of things being interested, everybody's tuning in this podcast because you're well known.
That's her name, Pat Collins.
Pat Collins.
Yeah.
Speaking of interested, a lot of people are tuned into this podcast mainly because they know your specialty is medical hypnosis. Can you, I guess, give a brief background about yourself and I guess how you got into the medical application?
Okay, well, it has to be pretty brief because I'm pretty old nowadays. I originally was an oncology nurse and wanted to
That's cancer, right?
Yeah, I went into cancer nursing originally. From there, found out that I connected with people almost too much and went into an 1-year operating room training. This is back in the Bronx in Montefiore Hospital. And it had a 12-suite OR, and I spent a month in every OR specialty, like a month in cardiac, a month in orthopedics, and so forth. And from there, I went to the Hospital for Special Surgery, which is in Manhattan. It's a 500-bed orthopedic hospital. And from there, I went into nurse anesthesia training at Kings County in Brooklyn, New York. At the time, it was a 3,700-bed hospital. I needed 1,000 hours to graduate. I had 1,000 hours after my first year. I stopped counting. But that's when I first saw hypnosis in the operating room. I had seen hypnosis. As nurses, we're not really taught that it's hypnosis. We're just taught that this is how you change a bandage. This is what you say to the person. So we're doing waking hypnosis and suggestions all the time, but we don't really know it's hypnosis. When I actually saw hypnosis in the operating room was at Kings County. Someone had been blown up by the mafia, and we couldn't put the anesthesia mask on his face because of the burns. And my instructor had been she had been a surgeon in China. She originally came from Russia. She was an anesthesiologist, and suddenly she was just talking into his ear, and he just went, his head just dropped to the side, and he went into a trance. And we did the skin graft, took the skin from his leg and put it on his upper body. And I thought it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I later found out that the reason it was so accepted at Kings County Hospital, across the street was the private hospital downstate. And there was a psychologist or psychiatrist, Teresa, I don't remember her last name, but she actually wrote a very famous book about hypnosis for clinical hypnosis. And so it was kind of like accepted, although we never knew what we were doing was really hypnosis. We were just doing it, right? How I got into it personally was about 1987. I was facing back surgery. And I was going to Joe Montana's doctor, and I was literally 2 weeks away from back surgery, and he told me he was going to, in order to fix my spine, he was going to use the abdominal approach, and scared the hell out of me because I knew that that is a way bigger surgery post-op wise than going through the back. And I would be in in those days, a body cast for like 6 months or something like that. I mean, it was just like really scary. And anyway, I started, I was lying down actually here in this living room. I put my hand on my hip, started doing self-hypnosis and visualization, seeing the red blood pushing through the nerve root and blue venous blood coming out. And first of all, my legs started to spasm, as it was releasing all the tension I had been holding for so long. And then the hip, where I had my hand, was actually starting to rise and fall. I mean, you could see it rising and falling. And I called my husband over, who's a surgeon. I said, Ken, look at this, look at this. I mean, it was just, like, to me, the most amazing thing. And I just kept on doing that. And I never had the surgery. If you see, when we go to hypnothoughts and all these conventions, I'm dancing just like anyone else. And I am so grateful that I never had the surgery, that I was able to use hypnosis to, to start healing my body and taking away the pain. Because I remember when the pain was its worst, I remember being on all fours and the tears just coming down, understanding that if this is how I had to live my life, I now know why my cancer patients wanted to die, right? And that's how I got into, pain hypnosis and so forth. And it just expanded when I, as a medical person, when I could see people's symptoms change and diseases maybe even go away, like skin conditions just clear up with the emotional release of things. And I mean, you can use hypnosis just for basics, even, changing lifestyle. Having somebody lose 20, 50 pounds and no longer be a diabetic and need insulin, or their blood pressure goes down, or, even if, let's say, they don't lose weight, but they get a better view on life, and that changes their disease conditions too. There's so many ways you can use it.
Hypnosis, it's unbelievable. I think I've told everybody the story when I first got into hypnosis. I was at my great-grandma's house. I think it was like 6 or 7. I looked over on the shelf, and I've always been a very voracious reader.
Uh-huh.
Walked up, and this book said hypnosis. And I think it was like, God, I was like 6, I think. Walked up, and I'm pretty sure it was, I always want to think it's either a book by James Bray, but I don't think he made a book. I'm pretty sure it was a book by, Dave Ellman's hypnotherapy book.
Uh-huh.
I remember going home, I think that night or sometime that week, trying to hypnotize all my stuffed animals, and the joke to this day is they're all somnambulists. Yeah, I was pretty much hooked when I was that young.
Well, I remember seeing, stage shows when I was younger, and I think it was Pat Collins on television, and just being amazed at it, but that was about in the 1970s, sometime around there, but it's a pretty powerful tool, I've actually taught my husband, and so whenever he does, when he He's a urologist, right? So whenever he does a catheterization now, he has people go into hypnosis so that it just slides in easy, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know what I dealt with recently, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I got up, my side hurt real bad. I almost fell over. I'm like trying to go to the bathroom. I was like, "What's going on?" Then it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh no, I got a kidney stone." And the way that I remember, I called my mom, and I could barely breathe. I'm like, "Mom," I'm like, "take me to the hospital." I could barely get my voice out.
Yeah.
On the way to the hospital, I used one of David Snyder's pain control techniques. Brilliant. It's probably the worst pain. He does one where he has. Yeah, let me switch this camera a bit. David has one where, let's say, if you've got a pain in your shoulder. Imagine pulling, as he calls it, you pull all the shit out, pull all the junk. Sorry for the language, folks. But you pull it out, and then you see whatever the feeling is. You see which way it's spinning. If it's spinning.
Oh, the reverse spin. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Take it, spin it faster until it changes color, then slap it back in, and within maybe 5 minutes, I completely pain-free. It was weird because while I was doing that, it's almost like I could feel. It's almost. I don't know if this happened to other people with kidney stones. I guess as soon as they pass, for me, it felt almost like a little bit of gas or like a gurgling in my stomach. So I think it helped to numb the pain just to the point where I could get everything through.
Yeah.
I know I had a private chat with you, and you told me like, hey, drink lots of water. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Is I've been drinking way more water than I need every day.
There we go. To your health.
Exactly. Now, speaking to health, I know you're going to have a couple of talks. We're going to have your talk coming up in Vegas before the hypnothoughts live conference. Can you tell my audience what you're going to be covering in your talk and what the dates will be?
Okay. Well, I'm doing a pre-conference talk, a 2-day training actually, and it is a medical hypnosis certification. I'll be doing a talk actually at Hypnothoughts, one on I think it's called Simple Medical Hypnosis. It's basically about waking hypnosis. And, I can't remember what the second one is that I'm doing there. But the 2-day training is basically specifically to get your medical hypnosis certification. I'm going to be covering, my belief is if I can get the hypnotist to really understand what they're doing and why and the principles behind it, then they can increase their client's belief system, and then their client will have better success. So it's important for the hypnotist to understand a medium depth understanding, right? Okay, so I'm not trying to make them a doctor or a nurse, but I want them to understand that mind-body connection, which means they have to understand the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, the endocrine system. They have to understand what's called the HPA axis. So all those things are very important. And then letting them understand, okay, so how does the cardiovascular system work? How does the respiratory system work? So that if somebody is coming to them, let's say with IBS, the gastrointestinal system, what physiology is going on, and what kind of visualizations can they use to affect that physiology that's going on, and there's certain principles. The same thing, I also do a little bit on pain control, obviously, because it's medical hypnosis, right? And so there are different principles in how do you get the brain to interpret the pain differently? And one of the principles is like total dissociation, okay, like maybe seeing it as like like that hand instead of your hand. And then the other is like what David was doing, actually taking it and dissociating out of your body and changing the submodalities of the pain, so that if it's red, you can make it, pinker. If it's rough, you can smooth it. If it's a knot, you can untie the knot. It's about changing those different submodalities so that the brain interprets the pain differently. And then I also I talk about the chronic pain protocol, because usually people will come to you for about 5 to 6 sessions, and so you kind of need to have a plan of how you're going to handle them, right? We talk about asthma, pain, marketing also. I went back, besides my medical stuff, I have a degree in business administration with a minor in marketing. I went back to school like in the 1980s. I'm really old. And so, I know about the marketing.
While you call yourself old, you've got a great young spirit.
I do. I have a young spirit. Absolutely, absolutely. I get this way near February. My birthday's coming up February 6th, so I start like preparing myself ahead of time for the birthday. But
Happy birthday.
Thanks. What were we talking about before we got into the birthday?
Oh, you're talking about you cover asthma.
Yeah.
You're talking about like the parasympathetic. I'm going to interject. I really love the fact that you're covering a lot about the anatomy, about the parasympathetic nerves, I believe sympathetic nerves. And what is the HPA that you were talking about?
The HPA is the hypothalamus pituitary axis. Oh, I was talking about marketing. That's what I was talking about.
Yep.
So I cover that also. But getting back to the HPA axis, the HPA axis has its own circulation. Okay. So it is a vital part of that mind-body connection, because when you are an embryo, from the neural crest is where all these things are developing. So your nervous system is entwined in that hypothalamus. It's kind of where it's originating from. So when you interpret those external events of your life, they are getting interpreted by neurotransmitters, this is how your body talk. It's our body talk. This mind-body connection, unfortunately, usually our thoughts are very unconscious. And before we're even conscious of them, we have told our body to send out cortisol or adrenaline or whatever else, what hormones, various hormones and so forth. So it becomes important to, you were talking about parts therapy before. It becomes important to heal those parts of us so that we don't have that unconscious event happening when these events of our lives happen, right? So if we can actually heal, actually release those emotions, change your subconscious mind, you can actually change how you physically respond.
Releasing, relaxing, and then stop pushing off so much of the cortisol, which I believe cortisol leads to weight gain, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's so much more than that, and they are discovering more and more things. But think of it this way: if you're putting out, everyone knows. You go to speak in front of a class and you feel like you're going to puke, you're going to throw up, or your hands get sweaty, right? That's the mind-body connection. Everyone gets that. So what happens if you're holding in anger 24 hours a day for, let's say, 2, 3, 7 years? What do you think it's going to do to your body, right?
Without sounding too airy-fairy or too new agey,
yeah,
you're gonna manifest something.
Oh, absolutely. When I was working in oncology, absolutely, 2 to 3 years before the people got sick, they had a really, really traumatic event that they were holding on to, and they would not let go of. I mean, I spoke to all my patients. I know, and it was over and over again. So it's not necessarily that the event caused the problem. It's that when your body is 70% water, you are bathing every cell of your body with your blood, right? Except maybe not the bone itself or the cartilage, but your cells are being bathed all the time. So if you're going to be putting out adrenaline all the time and all these irritating biochemicals, peptides and so forth, you're going to affect your body. I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, it can be if we want to get to the minutia part of it. Oh, if you press this, this happens. If you press that, that happens. All that is very true. But, if you're going to be tense all the time, you're not going to get oxygen, um, to the different cells of your body. You're going to, they know, like, if you're stressed, they know that the fallopian tubes go into spasm. And that's where fertilization happens. And that's, so if you're stressed, you don't get pregnant as well. Or if you're stressed, your follicle your pituitary, that HPA axis, right? So your hypothalamus is taking in your stress, interpreting. It sends signals to your pituitary gland, which, based on those signals, sends its own signals to your endocrine organs, to, let's say, your ovaries. And you just screw up your follicle-stimulating hormone and your luteinizing hormone, and you don't get your period that month, right? That happens. So these things happen, and they can have really bad effects if they're happening for a long, long time, Let's say, even if you're talking about IBS, what I've noticed in dealing with my clients who have IBS, a lot of times they're holding in their feelings, and those are what I've noticed. It doesn't mean this is, written in stone, but what I've noticed is that people who hold in their feelings usually are the ones that present to me with constipation IBS. The ones that kind of are in denial that anything is wrong usually have diarrhea IBS, but that's just been my experience. So when you're getting back to that sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? The sympathetic, let's say, will open up that's your fight and flight, okay? It will open up your pupils so that you can run away from the woolly mammoth. The parasympathetic will close your pupils. That's your rest and relax system, so that you can rest and relax, right? So if you're you're stressed all the time, that parasympathetic system isn't going to work well, right?
And the I'm sorry, the parasympathetic and sympathetic, the nerve systems, are those the ones that are represented in the medical symbol, the catechist, I believe, that has the, I think it is. You know how it looks like it's got two snakes going like that? Isn't the, how do I say, isn't the parasympathetic symbol? Yeah, that's it. I always call it wrong. Isn't the parasympathetic, aren't they intertwined like that in the body? Anyhow, I thought they were. I could be wrong.
Well, I don't think they're all over the place. There are different areas of the spinal cord. There are different areas. Okay. But then they get distributed, and some have ganglions, and and then some go into organs in different areas. But I don't think that's what's on the caduceus symbol.
It's funny.
I don't know the history of the caduceus symbol, actually.
It's funny. I just heard the old style clock. You have the old style clocks with the birds that pop out.
Yo, the one that just went off, my cuckoo clock. Yeah, we got that on our honeymoon. Yeah, 38 years old, and it's still working. It's still working.
Those are some classic clocks.
Oh, there was a place in Ohio that had life-size cuckoo clocks outside. And in our early years of marriage, when we would be having arguments and so forth, and we'd be under the cuckoo clock, and it would go cuckoo, cuckoo, we'd just look at each other, and the argument would end. It was so funny.
You'd be like, he's calling us a cuckoo. Why are we fighting?
Yeah. It still works. It still works.
So far I'm loving this. I've been sitting here. Most times when I'm talking to somebody, I have something to say if I'm interviewing somebody.
Uh-huh.
Finding somebody in our field that knows this much about the body, about the the peptides, the luteinizing hormones, the cortisol, mind blowing. I have not met many people that actually have a pretty in-depth knowledge of this.
Well, I don't know how in-depth mine is, and it could even be way more in-depth than what I know, too. But, what is it they say? The micro is the macro, and the macro is the micro. You can get into the minutia part of it, but I just want the healing part of it, right? Although, like I said, I believe that when the hypnotist understands this, then they can give that information to their client better. So when I'm dealing with a client coming to me for pain control or IBS or something really, really medical, I definitely, in my pre-talk, I talk about how this works and why, right? And even with my people coming just for, let's say, smoking or stuff like that, once I explain to them about the corpus callosum in the brain when you're in hypnosis and the studies they did at Stanford and in the MRI machine, what happens when you're in hypnosis, it makes them believe that this stuff works, and that will increase their success, which is very important.
I was going to ask you, so basically it's basically like a logical convincer, not so much a hypnotic convincer, but it's a logical convincer.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's right. It's actually absolutely, I'm doing a logical convincer. Absolutely. Because for me, as a medical person, I had to be convinced that this stuff worked and was real, right? So like in the very, very beginning of my years really getting seriously into this, I was just reading, convince me, right? So I know that for a lot of people, they need to know that this isn't woo-woo stuff. Some people love the fact that it's woo-woo stuff, right? I live near Berkeley, right? And but other people really do want that logical convincer. Wow, I like that. That sounds really good. I like that. I'm going to use that.
It's funny, we always come up with new terms and jargon.
Yeah.
So when exactly are the dates for your conference or your pre-conference for hypnothoughts?
Right, it's the 19th and 20th. It's on Wednesday and Thursday in August 19th and 20th, and it'll be all day long from 9 to 5. And they'll have a reference manual that's going to be about 50 double-sided pages, so that they can refer to for whatever we've discussed, and they'll be getting some videos that they can download. I'll send an email to them with the connection for the video, and then they'll download it and they can have that. It's a pretty good course. I used to give it more, and then the recession happened, so but now things are going well, and people are willing to spend the money for the airfare and the hotel and all that stuff. And it's a good course. And I'm always available for people, whether they call me up or they email me, even way after. I've had people like years ago who took my courses, and they'll have somebody that they're not quite sure with, like reflex, sympathetic disorder, with nerves and so forth, and muscle weakness. And they'll call me and ask me questions, or like, sometimes phantom limb, how do you handle that? That kind of stuff. And so I'm always available for people, always.
Well, speaking of being available, let's say if somebody has some questions for you before, let's say somebody's on the fence about wanting to register for the class and they want to ask you, and they want to learn some more about it before they make the decision to sign up, how can they get hold of you?
Okay, a couple of ways. You can go to my website, which is hypnotherapyforhealth.com, and my phone number's there and the Contact Us page. But my phone number is 510-690-0699. My email is sethdeborah@hypnotherapyforhealth.com. So it's SETHDEBORAH at, all spelled out, hypnotherapyforhealth.com. hypnotherapyforhealth.com. And then I also have a Facebook page, Hypnotherapy for Health.
Wow, isn't that a mouthful right there?
I know. I know, I know.
And let's see, did you go to both conferences? No, you couldn't make the first conference. Well, with
Right, I couldn't
Hypnothoughts
make the first one. It was my daughter was, I think it was
graduation.
her move out day. It was her move out
Yep.
day from the dorm at college. So I went, last year was the first one, and then this year.
You know, what can you tell people about the conference last year? I had a blast. It was fun.
I was surprised. It was wonderful. First of all, I like the fact that it's in Vegas. It's close for me because I'm in California, but there's so much to do, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
I like the idea that I could go to the stage shows at night of other people, you know. I like the street hypnosis is always cool,
That
right?
was fun.
And I like the events that Hypnothoughts put on also, right? In the Orleans amphitheater there. They were really nice, right? And the conference was really, really, they had a lot of different things, you know, a lot of different, uh, I met a lot of people from Europe that I had never been exposed to before.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was just fascinating, just, you know, really, really meeting them. And it's just a nice place to have a meeting. The food is good. The rooms, they were very reasonable, very, very reasonable. And the
Oh, it was a
conference
great
was
price.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, the conference was a good conference. There were so many things I wanted to go to that I couldn't go to, right? And so many people I had only, kind of noticed on that HypnoThoughts website, but had never really got to know, right? And hear them talk. And I think to me, go to as many conferences as you can. You know, I remember my first 2 years out, I was just taking so many courses. It was just learning as much as I could, learning, 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 learning.
Yeah, that conference, it was an absolute blast. The
Yeah.
did you get a chance to see Jeff McBride's magic show that night?
Yes, that was fantastic.
The one
Yeah.
thing that I love for everybody that missed it, you miss a great show. The one thing I really loved about his show when he at the end, remember he had his little uh, tray with a cup on it, and
Hmm.
he's reading a note, and then he has his glasses on, and you see him trying to squint and everything. Puts on a killer performance, and he takes a piece of paper, he's reading off, he's like, look, it's all illusion, there's nothing on here, takes glasses, pokes a hole in the glasses. The thing that really blew my mind away, the whole time you see him like taking his water, drinking it. When he went like this, he took the cup and then he pulled that string, remember it just kind of ribboned off. That was a great performance. Like I think magic and hypnosis
He
go
was
hand in hand.
he was very good. It was very, very enjoyable. Very
And that
enjoyable.
Paul I'm drawing a brain for Paul Draper, he also did the mentalism bit. He was great. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
an all around great performance.
And then I participated in Richard Rumble's stage show. I was part of the people
Do
involved.
remember that.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
looking up there, like, who's that young girl dancing up there?
And I remember he had me do it was the Wicked Witch of the West. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I actually gave her anesthesia when I used to work at Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan in New York. I put her to sleep. And her name was Margaret something or other. I don't remember. It's so many years ago. But so when I said, I think I said something like, something to you, my pretty. I mean, he looked at me like I really got into it. And that's because I was so associated with her. She was a very nice lady. I didn't have that long to talk to her, you know, just start the IV and put her to sleep. But she was a nice lady.
Wow. So you actually did hypnotic anesthesia with the witch
Well,
from
not
Wizard of
hypnotic
Oz.
anesthesia, just like
Oh,
real
anesthesia. My bad. My bad.
Yeah,
That's still really, really interesting.
yeah. And Beverly Sills is another lady I put to sleep again, at Roosevelt Hospital. It was in Manhattan, so we had, we used, we'd have people. When I worked at special surgery, who was the guy? Joe Namath, right? Joe
Yep.
Namath? The guy from Pennsylvania? Yeah. We did his knees, so it was fun.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, everybody that's listening, go to, let me see if I can pop my mug up here, get my face up here. Let's see. I'm going to put a link right here. Hopefully, if this works, you'll be able to click it. hypnothoughtslive.com. Go there. It's going to be August 20th to the 23rd. So that should be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's going to be a bunch of pre- and post conferences. Get there. It's unbelievable. And the price, I'm not sure if it's the same as last year, but last year it was great pricing.
It's a good conference. It's a lot of different people presenting a lot of different thoughts, and I'll be presenting my 2-day medical hypnosis certification, which is, they get a diploma. There's a little test at the end, although it's not a test to make you fail. It's, an open book test. But you do get like a nice certificate. And when you go to a health fair, I recommend, putting it right there on the table, having it on your wall. I mean, these things, they're important. They're important.
Or like I said, as a logical convincer, sometimes the having a cert on the wall is a good convincer.
It's also good when you do if I recommend to people when I do that marketing section, see if you can get to a hospital when they're doing the hospital fairs, whether it's a run or, the Great American Smokeout or something like that. But have that certificate that says, medical hypnosis practitioner, because it brings people to your table and it does give you some credibility.
This has been great finally getting you on the podcast. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but time zones are always very interesting. So everybody, check our website out, hypnotherapyforhealth.com. That's correct, right?
Absolutely correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Hypnotherapyforhealth.com. If you have any questions or anything, leave a comment above or below. Go to the conference. I'll see you there. I cannot wait. It's going to be a blast. It was great finally getting a chance to catch up with you.
It was also, yeah. Or I could go to Hawaii and catch up with you there.
Nah, you wouldn't like it. All the beaches here and the sun.
I know.